Hey guys, what's up? It's the Culture Detective here investigating your favorite albums, and today I'm going to do another classic album review, and I will be doing a review of Prince album, or more like Prince and the Revolution with Purple Rain, released in 1984. This album is actually not just an album, but more like a soundtrack attached to the movie of the same name, Purple Rain. And this is often considered as Prince's best album. And Prince is also often considered as one of the best pop artists of all times, of history. All the way from Minnesota, USA, he is a funk pop singer, songwriter, also producer, and he had dabbled in all sorts of musical styles. Again, funk, soul, R&B, pop, maybe a bit of psychedelic rock and heavy rock as well. And you can see all those musical styles on full display on this record, which is one of the reasons why this record is really, really special, which is that it is incredibly colorful and it has a versatile array of different musical styles. And also, what makes Prince really special is, of course, his performance. His vocal performance is very wild and expressive. The way the guy presents himself with his very fancy, colorful clothings, you know that he is a bit of an eccentric when it comes to, I guess, everything. So, given that he is a bit of an eccentric, his music is no exception. It is really freaky, but also very fun and uplifting. His vocal performances on this album and on many other albums of his are very wild, expressive. It has such a crazy sexual energy to it, which is just really awesome. And also, the instrumentals on this album, they're really funky, they're really colorful, they're very vibrant, and they also sound really ahead of its time, given that this album was released in 84. I guess if I have one complaint with this album is that sometimes there are moments where the production seems a little hollow, but other than that, I think this is a fantastic album. At only 40 something minutes long, 9 tracks long, most of the tracks on this album are fantastic. We have the album opener, Let's Go Crazy, where it starts off with this monologue, with this church sermon. You know, let me tell you about this thing called life. Life is forever, and forever is a mighty long time. So let's just get crazy. Let me introduce you to the afterlife, and let's get crazy. And the first track is a really amazing opening. It's like a musical parade, basically, where everyone's just in fancy, colorful clothes, enjoying life, dancing to the music, jumping around, singing along. It's very, very uplifting. The guitars, they are absolutely just colorful and vibrant. It's all over the place. It's really huge. The percussion, they're very springy and splickety. Very it has a really interesting sort of upfront tone about them, which is one of the more special things about the percussion on this album. And we have all these ad-libs by Prince, which just makes this track so much more exciting, so much more fun, and overall this is an absolutely amazing album opener, just full of energy, and it's absolutely exciting. Then the second track, Take Me With You, is a very sweet love song where he and a female fellow actress of his in the movie sort of sings a duet track, and this is very much a pop song, but a very sweet one at that. Also slow, but has a very strong sexual tone. The acoustic guitars are really fantastic. The strings are lush and layered, and this track is essentially about being caught with love, really. And yeah, if there's one thing about this track that I wish could be better, would be the choruses. I think they could be produced a little better, because the strings, they feel a little out of place during the chorus, but still, other than that, it is still a fantastic love song with great great performances, and just the style, the eccentric, colorful style, it's still there. The third track, The Beautiful Ones, is one of the highlights on the album for me. It's really the slow moments on this album that really stand out to me for some reason, and this is one of those moments on the album where it really slows down, and The Beautiful Ones is basically this very beautiful emotional ballad, and it is gorgeous. The falsetto vocals are beautiful, especially how wild and desperate it is. I mean, it sounds like Prince is trying to express his feelings and he's not holding back. He is showing it in the full extent with no shame, no embarrassment at all, and it is very beautiful and powerful. Also, the very relaxing but cloudy synths are fantastic. We also get some gentle spoken word here and there. Also, the climax of the track, where the instrumental they sort of swell, is really great. It just builds onto the really powerful emotional value that this track has. Up next, we have the track Computer Blue, and this track is wild. It is essentially a funky rock track, but what really steals the show on this track is not Prince's vocals, but the guitars. Prince is actually a great friggin' guitarist, because the guitars on this thing, they are insane. The way they doodle, the way they go up and down with such steadiness yet craziness. It's like the guitars are about to explode at any given second. And the structure of this track is very disjointed, but with the very reverby, cloudy, hazy instrumentals, it creates a really interesting atmosphere, and it's a great track overall. Afterwards, we have the track Darling Nikki, which is a more stripped back track. And essentially, this track is about how Prince ran into a friend of his in a hotel room, and how she was jerking off to some magazines. So he sort of tells this really steamy sexual story in this very stripped back, steamy sexual song. And it really worked out. It is really in the vein of Prince's music. And also the way the story gets more and more, when it gets higher and higher, the song it melts, it dissolves into just mess. And it's really interesting how towards the end Prince just speaks in tongues, and how all the instrumentals, they all melt down and it becomes one really strange mess. We have these drums, which are the only thing remaining, and yet they sound interesting and are entertaining. The track When Doves Cry is easily the big hit of this album, the big hit. The synth line on this track, dun 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 dun, dun 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 dun, they are fantastic, they're uplifting. And even though this track is really catchy, for some reason it is very stripped back. There are multiple moments on this track where it's just the drums, the percussion, and just Prince's vocals on top of it, and that's just it. So the production is kind of weird, kind of hollow, but in a sense, it makes this track really upfront and fresh as well. The performances, again, they are really fantastic. The keyboards, they are very stripped back, they're very monotone. They're there, but they're not always there. I kind of wish that there are more layers of synths and keyboards to back this track up to make this hit even harder, but still, the vocal layers, they're really nice. The very upfront metallic percussion, again, very nice as well. And overall, this is a total hit, and what can I say? This is the first track that clicked for me on this album. Up next, we have the track I Would Die For You, which is a really good song. Again, great instrumentals. I really love the jittery rhythms of this track. The hazy production is great as well. And even though this track isn't as outstanding melodically as other tracks on this album, it isn't as catchy, it doesn't land as hard, it's still a really solid song. Same goes for the penultimate track, Baby I'm a Star, which is essentially a track about Prince's ambition in the music industry. So this track is more narrative heavy. We get these uplifting pianos, also these really constant rhythms. Even though the production is really nice, this track doesn't stand out as much as the rest of the album. However, the final track, the title track, Purple Rain, is my boy. This track is epic. This track is 8 minutes and 40 seconds long, and it feels very powerful. The finality, it's there. You can really feel like the world is ending and your life is ending while you listen to the track. And also, this is very emotional. This is a tear jerker of a track. There is a gospel twist to the track which throws back to the beginning of the album, where Prince is like he's giving a church sermon of sorts. But also, I just love how melodramatic this track is. It's just very hazy. It's like after one really cold day during the winter, and you go back home and you cry while taking a hot shower. This is exactly how this track feels. It's very emotional. The guitars, they're absolutely sad and emotional, yet there is almost a euphoric feel to it because of all the reverb and all the layers of guitars and just the very sad vocals of this track, which makes this track so much more melancholic than it is just sad. And it is really, really, really beautiful and powerful, and I absolutely love it. So, yeah, Prince and the Revolution's Purple Rain is a fantastic album. Not every single track stand out to me, but I think a majority of it is fantastic. Amazing production. I love the very eccentric, colorful style of this album. The very steamy, freaky, sexual stories and narrative of this album is also one of the things that make this album stand out for me, is that it has no shame, no embarrassment at all, and also Prince's amazing guitar skills as well as very wild, desperate vocal performances is what really steals the show on this album. And yeah, not much else to say. My favorite track here is the title track, and my least favorite is Baby I'm a Star. I am giving Prince's Purple Rain a decent 9 out of 10. So, have you listened to the latest Prince album? From 1 to 10, how much would you rate it? Like it, like it, and subscribe if you want more. And thanks for watching. I will be reviewing Logic, Taylor Swift, and Leon LaHavas, and Blue in Exile very, very soon. And also, if I have time, Iron Maiden, but very likely I won't have time. So, yeah.